Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of WWT Experts. My name is Matthew Coble, digital advisor with Worldwide Technology, and I'm here today with Kait Miller. Kait, say hello to everybody.
Hey, thanks, Matt. My name is Kait Miller. I am a business development manager for video analytics.
Awesome. And Kait is also an expert at machine learning and computer vision, and that's our topic for today's WWT Experts session. So Kait, to kick that off, we hear about artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision. Maybe start us out with just some base definitions of what do we mean by those things?
Yeah, Matt, this is a great place to start because we hear all these terms passed around. A lot of times we might even hear these terms used interchangeably. So for today, we'll define them out, right? So artificial intelligence, or AI, very simply put, is the creation of software that imitates human behavior. And AI is really the umbrella over a lot of different things, including machine learning and computer vision. But machine learning, or ML, is probably the foundation under that umbrella. ML is the way that we teach that software how to make predictions or draw conclusions from whatever data it is fed. And last but certainly not least, in fact, one of my favorites, computer vision, or CV, is the ability of software to interpret the world visually through cameras, videos, images. And then we take that machine learning and we improve upon these different software models.
Nice. So yeah, should playing that back, like artificial intelligence is sort of that broader idea. Machine learning is one of the ways that powers AI, and then computer vision, it sounds like sort of a manifestation of that machine learning to address certain use cases out there.
Definitely,
yeah, yep. Yeah. So as we think about how the marketplace is moving forward with these technologies, machine learning and computer vision, which you're expert in, there are growing concerns about privacy and ethics and kind of how those technologies are treated. I feel like we read articles about that all the time. So I'm curious, what's the state of that space at this point right now?
Yeah, there really is a lot of concern here. We're doing a lot with computer vision right now with our customers across multiple different verticals. And I would say this question is probably one of the most common that we get, again, regardless of use case. It's, what data are you collecting? What images are you storing? And is there risk or liability that this opens us up to? And it really can depend on jurisdiction and a lot of other factors as well. So there are some specific use cases around like facial recognition or personal identification, but for the most part, in most use cases, we are able to anonymize all of this data. And then what happens is we only end up storing what we call metadata. And so we're still able to retain the ability to do things like real-time alerts based on a specific set of criteria that we've fed into these systems. But it also allows us to store that data, gives us insights into trends, and it helps us help our customers to know their customers better.
Cool. So can you give us an example of some current work that we're doing in this space, or some current issues that you see related to kind of the privacy, the ethics of that? And then how are you coaching our clients, our customers to deal with these matters?
Yeah, so, I'm just going to start with actually an example that's happening locally to where I am in New York State. So there's a school district here. They made about $1 million investment into a facial recognition physical surveillance system that was fully implemented and it was turned on. But almost immediately there was pushback from parents and others about, how ethical is this really, considering that these are students, children, right, that are being tracked and identified. And there's a lengthy lawsuit that's really still going on. I've been trying to stay close to it. But currently, as part of that, the school district has had to turn the system off that they made that investment in. And so when we have discussions with our customers, it's about, are you capturing personally identifiable information? How are you going to secure that data if we want to store that information? Is it in accordance with, say, GDPR or other regulations of that sort, or does it make more sense to shift these use cases slightly so that we can anonymize all that data?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, and I feel like we're going to keep hearing about some scenarios like that, and so it's important that we're coaching our customers appropriately with how they're using these sorts of things. The other thing that I feel like we're hearing more about, with respect to machine learning is bias, right? That, machine learning algorithms are being built and sort of put together in ways that aren't quite the way that we intend them. So, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing on the bias front with these things.
Yeah, Matt, I think you bring up a good point here, right? We live in a world full of bias, right? I mean, if you just look behind me here, I have a bias for dogs over cats. I'm an animal lover, right? I don't want to get too controversial here, but I do prefer dogs. And it's humans like me that are really training these models. And so if I were going to create a model to identify pets, and I took my entire camera feed from my phone to train the model, well, it's going to be far better at identifying dogs than it is at identifying other pets. And that's because I'm baking my own bias into this training. And there's bias that exists wide as well. Like if we take that school district we just talked about, one of the hot topics in the lawsuit is really that facial recognition systems have shown to be far more accurate when they're identifying adult white men over any other demographic, children, any other demographic, right? So we know that there's bias baked in there. That's just the nature of the world that we live in, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious if if there are any other examples of that bias that you're seeing in the marketplace, and what do we do to address that, and then how are we thinking about that here worldwide, and how are we coaching our clients to think through kind of paying attention to the bias that may exist in machine learning models and to counter that in ways. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And just to kind of level set on how important this really is and how hot of a topic it is, I'm currently doing a training course for machine learning and computer vision, always just trying to keep these skills as high as possible, right? So the first thing they did, just like we did, was they just defined AI, ML, and a few of the other items that fall under the AI umbrella. But the second thing, before we got into anything else, the second thing was about bias and how you stay responsible with technology. So even for some of the biggest organizations out there training individuals on how to utilize ML and CV, it's very top of mind for them as well. And one of the examples that they gave us was a company came to them and said, we just realized that we are hiring all the same type of person for our technical roles. And what we want to do is take that out of our hands. We want to use machine learning and let the machine make the decision for us so that we can have a more diverse workforce. And so they started to build a model. They took all of the stats from their existing workforce, input it into the model, and train the software to make hiring decisions. So, Matt, what do you think happened here?
I'm thinking that may not have worked out the way that they thought, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us how it turned out.
Exactly. They used non-diverse data to train the model, and the model ended up spitting out, exactly how they were hiring previously. The model was much more confident in making hiring recommendations for employees that reflected their existing workforce, and just less confident in making employment recommendations for a workforce that would have been more diverse. So, I don't necessarily think this is something we can eliminate, but if we're aware of it, if we think about it, if we make sure we include it in our processes, we're aware of it, we ask the right questions. These are all things that are going to help us take the right steps forward so that we can avoid it. And if we ensure that we utilize a diverse group of individuals to help train this model and put it through multiple different iterations, we can take a lot of steps to avoid and limit this as much as possible.
Yeah, and Kate, also makes me think about the work that we're doing here at WWT and a lot of organizations out there as well to make sure we have good diversity throughout our workforce, right? And that's a continuing challenge, I think, to grow and cultivate different skill sets from different backgrounds, different cultures, race and so forth, to really build that diverse workforce that then will be building the machine learning models that drive better outcomes, more diverse outcomes, less bias in the mix there too.
Definitely.
But definitely still a lot of ground to cover to get to that place. So I wonder, just to wrap that thought, are there what are 2 or 3 things you think about from a bias standpoint as you talk to clients about machine learning models? What should people keep in mind as they're building those to eliminate that bias or to reduce the bias?
Yeah, so I think one suggestion is to identify individuals that are good at asking questions, right? So you're going through any process or any situation, and there's always somebody who is going to throw that what if at you. That's somebody you want engaged in your process to just throw those what ifs out, to be very, very good at asking questions, whether they're, coders or not, whether they're technical or not. If they can ask those what if questions to keep you honest and make sure that you're evaluating things from all perspectives, because it's just human nature to be more drawn to the things that you see in yourself, right? So, like I said, I don't know that we'll ever really avoid bias altogether, but if we can make sure that we ask the right questions and face it head on, I really think that's going to be the best way that we can try to limit some of these things showing up in our models.
Yeah, that's great thinking, and I appreciate that we've talked through the sort of privacy concern, the ethics concerns, bias. I think that's going to be a continual challenge, in the world of AI, machine learning, computer vision, and so forth as we go forward. So definitely work for us and other organizations to continue doing to move forward in those ways. With that, I do want to shift a little bit to, what are some exciting things that you're doing in the computer vision space? Like, what's some cool stuff you're working on now? What are you excited about that's coming to market, and maybe where do you think things are headed with computer vision in the next few years?
Yeah, definitely. So, every time I see a new model, I'm kind of like, oh, that's like the coolest one I've seen yet, right? When we're using some of these video things. So there might be a little bit of recency bias here. See,
A little bias.
More bias. Yeah. A little recency bias here, but I think I'd have to say one of the coolest models I'm seeing working right now is we're working with one of our customers on space utilization, and working with just an incredible partner, a startup, and they're kind of working to convert like pixels into square footage, so that you can really start to understand, depending on the number of pixels in the camera footage, what square footage that equates to, and then how utilized that space is. And watching this come to life and what we can do when we better understand space utilization and how our customers can use that data to make decisions has just been one of the most fun and most exciting things I've been working on lately, for sure. Like I said, it's recency bias though, because every time I see the next model, I'm like, okay, now this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's cool, and I love that there's. I mean, part of the reason I do what I do, and I think what we do is that in this space things are new and emerging all the time. You always got to be learning and so forth. So that's part of why I dig working at Worldwide Technology. Going off script just a little bit, we were preparing for the session today, and I see you've got there over your shoulder the pups on the wall. I totally dig that your entire pasta, your little pasta of pups is all named after currencies. Like, tell us a little bit about that. And they're Instagram famous too. So
yes. So we have a little bit of Instagram famous going on. We got our first dog. We named him Cash Money.
Cash Money.
He lived up to that name. Every time he would give us a run for our money, people would tell us, "Hey, you're the one who named him," And so that was funny. But when we got the next dog, we said, hey, let's stick with a theme, right? So we got Bitcoin. So we have coin now. And then we added a third little one to our group, and we decided to name her Credit Card, even though we call her CC. And they do have over 1,000 followers on Instagram. They are Money Squad Pups. If anybody wants to check them out, give us a follow and help us build that number up. Yeah.
Yeah, so all the transactional currencies you need right there in the pops there at your house. That's super fun. All right, well, let's get to the last question here. We'll wrap up. Curious to know, what should they watch? What should they read, do, see to really stay abreast of what's going on with machine learning and computer vision? What do you recommend? Give us some tips on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely, the leading edge here. So I think one of the things you want to do is follow WWT, other companies, right, that stay on the bleeding edge of this technology. Just like you said, one of the great things about working here is being able to really stay on the forefront of all these things as they develop. Follow me on Twitter at Kait, WWT. Connect with me on LinkedIn. We're constantly creating content, including articles, videos, labs, and a ton more. And you can follow all those topics at WWT.com. I think it's important to identify and follow startups. I mean, when we talk about the bleeding edge of technology, there's always startups out there who are doing some incredibly innovative things. And computer vision, machine learning has really been no different. There's a lot of awesome startups out there. So I think following them is a really great idea. And then the last thing I would say is just let your imagination run wild. Do not think anything is impossible. It's all on the table. If you can look at a view of a camera and see something, we can train software to identify the same thing, create alerts, do whatever we need to do with that. And the best thing about that, the software never gets sleepy eyes, right? So we don't miss anything. So I think those are probably the top 3 things you can do to stay on top of this.
Yeah, I love that stuff, and especially that last point about that unbridled creativity. I think we all need to continually bring that to the work that we're doing and not be bounded by what's been possible, and sort of think about the new things that are possible as we're striving to make a new world happen out there, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Listen, Kate, this has been super fun. WWT expert Kate Miller talking to us about machine learning and computer vision. Part of a series of things that we're doing. If you've enjoyed this, please join us again as we get in October. October 14, we've got Chris Conrad joining us to talk about security. October 28, Tracy Sever will be with us to talk about Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE. Very hot topic out in the market right now. And more to come as we get through the rest of this year, part of the WWT Experts series of events. And please join us. If you want to check that out, head over to wwt.com/events. You'll find this session recorded, other sessions out there, and the new ones we have in the future. Sign up, join us, and see you. Kate, thanks so much. Great to see you today. Appreciate your time. And that is a wrap. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.